Guys, welcome to Black Scout Survival Late Night Live. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'm your host, Jack Richardson, and your best friend. Anyway, we've got so far away from war fighting. It is absolutely ridiculous. So check out this headline here. Military could hit troops with courts martial for refusing to use preferred pronouns, experts say. This is not a joke. This is not a simulation. This is absolutely real. Imagine tomorrow if you go to work and your superiors say, you know what, guys, we're not worried about your job, your performance of your duties and what you actually do. We're going to focus all our efforts on inclusion because that is important. Now, being the U.S. military is what defends us from our enemies. What happens whenever you stop doing that job? Yeah. Anyway, let's pull up the article here and let's dig through this. Okay. This shouldn't be a shocker to many, but I was pretty blown away. So anyway, let's go down here. The military could seek to formally punish service members for refusing to use another service member's preferred pronouns under existing policy, according to military experts. A 2020 equal opportunity law opened the door for commanders to subject someone who refuses to affirm a transgender service member's so-called gender identity to the UCMJ or Uniform Code of Military Justice for charges related to harassment. Now, this is coming from, I guess, the resident expert, Captain Thomas Wheatley. He's assistant professor at U.S. Military Academy of West Point. And he says such a move would likely infringe on service members' constitutional rights to uphold their conscience, but it would not prevent leaders from employing more subtle ways of disciplining service members. And so it says the military is right to want to protect the rights and welfare of its transgender service members, but it owes the same protection to those who share a different perspective on the issue, especially when that perspective is deep-seated expression of personal conscience. None of the military's rules explicitly prohibited so-called misgendering when someone uses pronouns to describe a transgender person which do not correspond with the person's new gender identity. However, existing guidance implies that using pronouns rejected by another person violates the military equal opportunity regulations against sex-based harassment and discrimination. Now, that is actually what I thought. That's the move I thought they'd make. I thought they would try to say that it's sexual harassment is the move that they would make. Anyway, so let's show a video of one of the most popular trans commanders in the Space Force.
The Pentagon, I have people staring at me and basically asking, are you real?
Mendota Heights native Colonel Bree Fram, an astronautical engineer, is an officer in the United States Space Force. She joined the U.S. Air Force right after 9/11, serving 18 years before joining the Space Force. She is a chief of the Acquisitions Policies and Processes Division.
What's that mean?
I figure out how we buy things. So how we develop, design, and acquire spacecraft and the systems that we need to run them.
She says while Space Force is new, its mission is not. It has a huge legacy and heritage from what the Air Force and other services have been doing in space back to the 1950s.
So we are not talking about aliens. The Space Force designs and operates a whole suite of capabilities in space that basically enable our modern way of life.
Fram says things we use every day come courtesy of the Space Force.
We design, build, and operate GPS. So if you are navigating somewhere in your car and your phone is giving you directions, you're talking to the Space Force. If you're using your credit card, which is underpinned by the timing system that
So yeah, that guy is one of the most popular ones. He's the one who said that essentially that it was what did he say? It was a threat to national security. That we need to have more transgenders within our military. So the biggest thing that stuck out to me on that video was that he said that their mission is GPS and credit cards. Why are we funding a military branch on that? Like, my thoughts of Space Force, I guess from watching lots of sci-fi stuff as a kid, that they'd be like shooting lasers from space and stuff. I'm sure the Chinese have that. Anyway, let's go back to the article here. So service members could be court-martialed for refusing to use another person's self-identified pronouns. He said the law applies to service members at all times and all locations, and even when they're off duty and in the privacy of the post residence. Dude, do you know how much like trash talking that happens like at the barracks and just, I mean, just the amount of hazing that happens like during my time, and it may be prehistoric now, dude, we would like do horrible things to our buddies. You know what I mean? I mean, we would strip them down and cocoon them in 100-mile-an-hour tape. They would literally they would get like a waxing across their legs and stuff because we would totally cocoon their whole body in 100-mile-an-hour tape. And that's like one of the most tamest things we would do to each other. I mean, so imagine you're hanging out at the barracks on Friday night, you've drank a few beers, and then you start, playing around, horse playing and stuff. And then on Monday, you get pulled in there for a non-judicial punishment because you offended someone, right? Because this could happen. And the amount of absolute masculinity in the military, right? Young men that are extremely masculine, that's why they join the military. The amount of trash talking that's going to come from them is, I mean, this is opening a door to rid, just like what happened before when they rid a bunch of the good guys. This is another ploy, in my opinion, to rid the good guys, right? So then if you look down on here, UCMJ also prohibits conduct unbecoming of an officer under Article 133 and 134. So they would say that now it's unbecoming and incompatible with service as a commissioned officer to openly hold sincere religious convictions surrounding the act of creation and nature of human sex. And trust me, that's where I knew this was going. Attack on Christianity, because that's, if you boil it all down, if you boil all these things down, if you get a map, a diagram, it all boils back to destruction of Christianity. Because it doesn't matter about your religious beliefs or what you feel. You've got to kick those to the curb and adopt this other person's, because if you offend them, oh no, conduct unbecoming of a commissioned officer. And speaking of a commissioned officer, you know how you address them, sir and ma'am? So imagine someone that may look like a male, for example, is a male, looks like a male, but you call him sir, and then he says, no, that's not my preferred pronoun. That's not my preferred pronoun, hardcore. We're going to pull you up for non-judicial punishment. Court-martial. Hey, Gunner Sharp, you're getting court-martial because you misgender me. This is something that is totally ridiculous. We're talking about the United States military, man. Look, you can do this stuff out in the private sector all you want, but this is taxpayer dollars. These are people, predominantly young people in the military, that are joining the military by and large to serve their country, to defend freedom. And now they're having this placed on them as well. But we look back in here. So, and look, the umbrella of that whole community is so huge. So you don't know how quickly you could offend someone, right? And we're talking here, it says, goes on to say, the Supreme Court had just ruled in a case, Bostic and Clayton County, in favor of gay and transgender plaintiffs, alleging their employers fired them on the basis of their self-described sexual orientation and gender identity. So it goes on to say, conservative justices warned the case could have far-reaching consequences for organizations operating based on religious belief and free exercise of religions in the workplace. They don't care. They're okay with that. But again, what this will do is that if you terminate someone that is part of this community, they can come out and just say, oh, you terminated me for this, right? That's essentially what it would how it could happen. Now, it goes on to say Pentagon leaders have pushed diversity and inclusion as an indispensable component of warfighting effectiveness. I would love to sit down with some of these generals and you show me exactly how this is crucial or indispensable, as your word, for warfighting effectiveness. I don't see any benefit of who you sleep with matters on the battlefield. I'm sorry, I can't rationalize it. I would love for someone to tell me how that affects combat readiness, right? Now, the opponents, this is the same article, the opponents say the focus on race, gender, and sexual identity has distracted the military from important issues and unfairly privileged minorities. DI priorities have now overtaken matters on multiple domains. Of course it has. It's completely taken over our military. I've said this 1,000 times over the past few years. The military, you join to be part of that culture, right? The military has its own culture. Now, the problem lies is just like many of you, because I know I have lots of veteran followers, you still have that culture. Like people, I'm very misunderstood in the real world. Like I'm very misunderstood, as well as probably you guys are. People have a hard time understanding me. I say things that, whoa, oh my gosh, what did he say? And it's because I come from this culture. My young adult life, the majority of those years were spent in that culture. And so I get out into the real world and it's hard for me to assimilate to the real world. But now that culture is destroyed. And the military culture is very binding. And many of you military veterans can attest to this. And I would like for you to, in the comments, to talk about this. I was telling somebody the other day is that like race did not matter at all. That junk was not even a topic of discussion. It didn't matter what color you are. You're my brother, and that's all that matters. I never saw it as an issue. Some turd bags that just sucked at being in the military will say, oh no, man, I got treated bad. Nah, it's because you were a turd. That's really why. You were a non-performer, non-hacker, right? You couldn't handle it. And you could not meet the standard. And you were treated like crap because of that. We call those people shitbirds. We treat you like a shitbird if you are one. And so then they'll say, oh, I got treated that way because of X, Y, and Z. No, it's just because you were a non-hacker. But no one ever talked about that. My best friends in the military were of all different races. My absolute best friends, people I would die for. To this day, I'm still tight with them. Anyway, you know, I think it's ironic, though, that only certain groups are protected, because when service members try to get the religious exemption during the season of the hokey pokey, they got denied, essentially infringing on their beliefs. I've seen multiple people that follow me. Man, it was sad. It was very sad. Like I had guys contact me right and left. What do I do, man? They're wanting to kick me out. And I was like, I can't tell you what to do. I remember this one kid vividly. He was messaging me. He had just went through, got finished with an amphibious reconnaissance course. He had just became a reconnaissance Marine. And he said, dude, they were going to make me take it. I'm going to get out. I want to be a recon Marine my whole life. And now I'm going to have to get out. He said, what should I do? I said, dude, I can't tell you what to do. I was like, that's on your own heart. He wound up deciding to get out. So this man joined the Marine Corps, became a reconnaissance Marine, and then had to get out. And they would not give him the religious exemption. But now at the same time, you'll get court-martialed for not calling somebody what they want to be called. I can't understand it. I can't understand it, guys. I can't. Going behind him lines right should be. Imperium, thanks, but I don't understand your question at all about certain people going behind enemy lines in their ranks and should. I have no idea what you're saying, man. It's some, I couldn't even understand your language here, buddy. It's like, is this English? Maybe you're the smart one, I'm the dumb one. I don't know. I don't understand you. Anyway, guys, yeah, somebody says, CJ says the country's cooked. It definitely is, man. I don't feel good. I don't have a warm and fuzzy, and you got to be your own hero. Bill Cooper is the author of Behold the Pale Horse, and I recommend every single one of you guys go read it. Definitely a good book. He was murdered by the government as well. It's funny now. Let me give you a backstory before I jump off here. The Behold the Pale Horse. I had this gentleman that worked for me. He was a few years older than me, a black guy, and I made him my right hand man. Right, he was my superintendent, and he was very squared away guy. You know, you wouldn't have thought he'd been in prison for 15 years for he was a big time drug dealer, but very squared away, very sharp guy, very intelligent. And he would always say these certain things. This is many years ago, guys. This is like maybe 15 years ago. And he would always talk about, say these certain things. And this is before I was aware of a lot of stuff. And I was like, man, where are you getting this from? And he said, Behold the Pale Horse. Behold the Pale Horse. And he'd always talk about it. And so one day I was like, dude, what is Behold the Pale Horse, man? This sounds biblical. And he tells me Bill Cooper, he starts talking about it. And anyway, he then says that in prison, it's one of the most read books, and it was actually like banned in many prisons, maybe all prisons, but I'm pretty sure it's banned in many prisons. So anyway, I read it, and it, shockingly, like this book was written, I think 20 years ago, 30 years ago, maybe, and it's like you're reading it today. Now, there's been edited versions of it and pieces taken out and stuff like that. But apparently he was naval intelligence, Bill Cooper was, and he saw and knew a lot of things. And basically the book was from that. But he was killed. I think he was killed because the IRS showed up at a house with the county sheriff and they wound up shooting him. But again, like most things, how it happens. Anyway, guys, I do appreciate you guys hanging out with me. And guys, make sure to comment. Let me know your thoughts on this subject matter. And always stay frosty, stay strapped, and always stay dangerous. Take care.